Okay, let's see how we are looking tonight here. This is Randy Small, Whatcom County weather, and time to do a live stream. Just let a few people come on in, both here on YouTube, I hope, and hopefully also on Facebook as well. So Keith is here. I think Keith's like the first one almost every time. Good evening, Keith. Okay, and he already knows the drill. He can hear me loud and clear. Okay, great. Let me see if Facebook, I think if Facebook is up. Hopefully it is up and running now. Maybe somebody can just let me know over on that side. It does look like we have a couple followers. So welcome to December 2nd, 2025. I believe it's Tuesday night. Is that correct? And thank you to everybody who was able to subscribe to the channel, and just really appreciate it. We have almost doubled the number. Well, not quite, but gone from 300 and some to over 500 and some subscribers off that one post from last night. So great to have that number jump. And make sure you, if you haven't subscribed, to subscribe. Make sure you like it, and the more watch, the better. The more watch hours. That's really what we need now, is watch hours. So even if you're not listening fully to it and you're off doing something else, just let it run. And you can kind of listen to it. And of course, it'll get busier if we get into some storms coming up, and we're going to take a look at that in just a moment. But before I get into just the current conditions, I'm going to try to keep this somewhat more abbreviated. And I was thinking, try to cover the main stuff in about a 30-minute slot. And then basically say, okay, I'm done with the main stuff for the night. If you want to stay and I'll go over some stats or graphics, we could do that at the end instead of at the beginning. And I know that might cause some issues, but and again, you can always go back and rewatch it. So if you end, if we end at 9:15 Pacific time here, then if it went, that's a half hour. But if it went 45 minutes, you missed the last 50 minutes because you had to go to bed, or it was too long, or you had to put kids down, or whatever it is. So just kind of going over that. Good to have Mark here. Leslie, I believe, is here. Catherine. Again, sometimes the names don't match up, but that's over on the YouTube side. Joanne is here. Brenda's here. Jordan's here, all on the Facebook side. So the first thing I'm going to do, but good evening. Really glad you're all with us. Just quick check of the current conditions here in Whatcom County, and then we'll take a peek at the bigger area, but mostly 30s, upper 30s, low 40s, very little wind, which might promote fog tonight, just with the low-level moistures that are left after the last couple days of precip and, misty rain or whatever that's been the last couple of days. It is 31 up at Sumas Mountain and 27 up at the ski area. Hopefully you are all able to see that. There is I move that around. And then over on the Skagit side, or down south, we got a little bit on the low 40s. Up the highway here is 40s and upper, or low 40s and upper 30s. South BC, pretty much a lot of 30s for whatever that is in Celsius. So we'll take a look at, we'll watch those temps if things get a little bit crazier, as we go into the next week or so. I will answer questions partway through this too. So I see some questions already coming in, and I'm kind of monitoring both. So David is here also on YouTube. Good to have you. We have a bunch of people watching on both streams here tonight, so really glad about that. Looks like we've made the strides here to get more people on here, and we are going to talk about what we're potentially seeing coming up, and I think we need to take a look at it. Start thinking about, okay, what is this looking like? Are we heading into a storm change here, where it's kind of been benign here? Real quickly, we've had about a quarter inch of rain on December 1st, a little bit more today, so not going to go much over the December stats. I posted the November stats already, so if you want to look at that, there was a post last night or yesterday where I put the Bellingham Airport BLI stats for November up on the page, and the year-to-date through November precip stat we're about a little over 2 inches behind, so we won't look at that. Just real quick, the snow report at the ski area, just wanted to touch on this really quick. They now have the snowfall amounts, 1 inch, 3 inches in 24 hours, 1 inch of new snow today, 3 inch snow base at Heather Meadows, not near enough to get going, 8 inches up at 5,000 feet. It's below freezing at both Pan Dome and Heather Meadows. And they're talking about the potential of 40 inches of mountains. We shall see. We're going to take a look at that potential tonight. I was going to mention I pulled up, and I hope this works because we've had problems sometimes going off of my website showing these webcams, but it does look like a little bit of fog. And when I was driving home from the hospital tonight, visiting a friend, I was encountering some low, some fog, not crazy, on the Hannigan, even coming out of Bellingham into Linden. So just keep an eye on that. We might see some fog overnight. Don't know that anybody will get, might be a few temps close to freezing, but I don't think. I think most with the clouds and might hold that off. Hopefully we don't have any freezing fog issues. I probably should take a look at that a little closer. Okay, I'm going to jump into the weather models really quickly because again, trying to figure out a way to shorten these so that everybody can, as somebody suggested, treat this like a 30-minute TV show. So we're going to make that attempt here tonight. And so I'm going to switch over, and hopefully I will get this set up here as I go from my fog map to my weather bell map or my GFS tonight that has already come out. Now, the models, I'm just going to say at the outset here, the models are kind of hinting at a bunch of precip. So we need to take a look at that. And then also kind of mid-month, there's these hints that it could go cold. We will not take that with a very much serious nature at this point. What I'm most concerned about is to see where the precip and where that's stacking up. Because for our area, we obviously have concerns. We all understand that here after coming out of the 21 year. So I'm not saying that we're heading into any flooding. I'm just saying we need to take a look at it. Right now, there's not much snow at the ski area. So that is, when we had the November 21 flood, there were 4 feet of snow at 4,000 feet or 4,200 feet. And we lost, about 30 inches of that in that November flood. So we aren't starting with much of a snow base, at least at that level. Obviously, there's more snow higher up. But even at the 5,000 foot level, some of that's probably melted just because the November has been so warm overall. Obviously, again, elevation above that is going to have a bunch. So let's go ahead and take a look at the GFS tonight. I'm going to go through this rather quickly and not quite as many comments. Here's our ridge kind of keeping us now dry with this big upper level low over here into the way up here north of the Canadians in those provinces, all of which I can never remember all the names of them, but those ones over there. As we put it into motion, as we go into Wednesday, it looks like Wednesday's going to hold for a fairly dry day. And that's where you'll see this ridge start to flatten, so to speak. It's back here, it's pumped up a little bit, and it's not pumped up that much, but it's kind of more elongated here right now. But that thing's going to kind of come more of a flatter. And that's going to open up the door for potentially some systems. The first 1 or 2 systems as we come into later this week is probably not going to be too much. It's not going to be, anything crazy. But as you see that ridge flatten out more, that just opens the door for more potential of precip. And then we have to ask, where is the precip aimed at? Is it aimed at Whatcom County? Is it aimed at south of us? Is it aimed at BC? I would say right now, seeing this, and looking at this map where we're way up in the sky here. We're at 500 millibar, 18,000 feet. We're just kind of getting a bird's eye view, as I often say, of what the systems, but we really have to look at the surface maps in order to understand where that rain might start really accumulating. And so as we continue to put this in motion, and we see this Gulf of Alaska trough, this is still probably allowing, just by quick view of this, allowing precip to come in as we head into next week. And now we're on to Sunday. And there's no ridge left, really. I mean, it's kind of centered down here, but it's really a flat one. And it's as if the vapor transport just kind of runs the conveyor belt on top this ridge. And it just kind of, rain just kind of heads in. Systems are allowed to come on in. The door is open. There's no ridge blocking them, if I could say it that way. And so this kind of just hangs out. This ridge hangs out, moves around some, but it just keeps that conveyor belt potentially of multiple systems coming in. And then this GFS run is going to turn cold, it appears like, because as this, and we've talked a lot about this, and again, if you haven't joined the lives, you'll soon learn about this. Yeah, here comes some potential cold air, but this is way too far out. It's a week from Thursday. But that's what this GFS is advertising, and we're starting to see hints of that with this Alaskan ridge setting up. But I'm going to stop it right there because we're not worried about the cold potential, because that's too far out, and that could change the next run. But we are seeing some precip. So, and I'm going to go ahead to the GFS surface map right now, and let's just take a look. And I've been watching this to take a look at tonight's run to see what kind of rain amounts, and we'll kind of know where the main rain is by the rain amounts and how they stack up. We'll kind of, you can almost see it just by where it is. You know, where would the bulk of the rain go that might be coming, because it appears like it's coming, at least as of now. And some of these numbers are getting a little wild, but are those precip numbers starting to, elevate, especially mountains. I'm looking especially at the mountains here. Okay, we are behind on our precip for the year. So in 21, we came into a very wet fall, and then November just went crazy. So we're not mirroring that. Now, while November was wetter than normal, October was not. We are actually, and again, behind for the year. We're not in a real soggy period yet, but that may be about to change. So I'm just going to put this in. This is a global low-res model. Can't see the terrain very well, but it gives us an idea. And this is the latest run. So we got a little precip maybe tomorrow, but that ridge is probably going to hold. There could be a little bit of drizzle or a little bit here as we head into Thursday. And then we get kind of this first system, and I'll call it light system. It is going to drop a little bit, it looks like. Maybe kind of on this run more towards Skagit. And you can see the mountains here starting to add up. And now we go into Friday, and now you see the numbers are starting to add up down here in the Central Cascades on that Friday system, and then it starts adding up here as well. This is starting out as a wet run, I can tell you that right now. And so now we're only into Friday night, and we're already seeing a few inches in the mountains. Okay, and that's not the main systems. These are kind of the weaker of the systems, at least what we've been seeing. Saturday may not be a half bad day on this run, and then we start going into next week, and let's see what happens here. Here comes more rain. It looks like the Olympics are really getting hit, but you see this brown right here in Snohomish and King County? That's where to me, that's where the main rain is kind of aimed at currently on this run, and I'm starting to see that showing up. And now it starts coming in the North Cascades, but again, and here comes that Tuesday system, Monday night Tuesday. Look at this rain start stacking up here. Again, I'm not calling for floods or anything like that. I'm just saying we're starting to see these trends of, decent precip numbers. This isn't even a week out. I mean, it's just under that. But this is for next Tuesday morning, and we're seeing, 6-7 inches in the mountains. And then look at this. It just keeps going. Here comes the Wednesday system, and we're starting to see the lowlands up 2.5 inches, 3 inches, out here on the coast more, wet down into Oregon. But you can see these mountain numbers are starting to get into double digits as we go into next week. That's probably about where I should end it. Well, we're starting to see 10 inches, 12 inches up in the mountains. Now, that won't all be rain. That's what's going to determine is where is this rain aimed at, and to the north side of the fire hose, if I could say it that way, it could be cooler, or would be cooler, excuse me, and the fire hose in south is going to be warmer, and so you're going to have some, up in the mountains, you're going to have some different things going on. It's not going to be equal all the way down the Cascade Range where the snow levels will be. So it is possible, if we stay on the cooler side, that this snow level stays, not at 7,000 or 8,000, but it gets down to 5,000 or even less, which would be extremely beneficial snow. They're basically running this very close, but very beneficial snow for the ski area. So you go back to what the ski area said, and they said, well, they're seeing something about 40 inches. So this, if it were to stay where we would be on the cooler side, the snow levels would be much lower than may say down here. So I would say, there's could be flooding concerns at the first, somewhere down in the Snohomish King area. I'm not sure about Pierce and the Olympics, because I'm more familiar with our area up here. But I think this is something we bears watching here just by quick looking at this tonight. And we'll check, and the numbers just keep growing here, especially down here. Okay, let's see what they're showing. Here comes Thursday, Wednesday into Thursday. Well, basically Thursday's system is first, dropping some more down to the south. Here comes the Friday right there. Again, it seems to be trended south of Skagit, Snohomish, and even further. Okay, so actually the Euro's not as wet on this run for Friday, although the mountains are starting to get it. Here comes Saturday, and here comes Sunday's system. You can see these numbers starting to stack up. Here comes into Monday. Wow, look at that. That that Monday into Tuesday time period could be really wet. Look at this. So just keep an eye on this. 6 inches up in the mountains, 7 inches. Starting to stack up. 2.89 down in, 2.78, 3.3, 2.4 at Bellingham. And it just keeps adding on here as we go into next week. Look at these numbers. They just keep adding up. We're up to 11 inches. Again, not that this is going to verify, but it's giving us indication. Again, it seems to be that it's right in this, the big amounts are kind of, we're kind of holding our own up here. And the biggest amounts seem to be in here and maybe south at this point, at least on these runs. This is for just, a week and a half out, that's 4 inches at Bellingham. And again, may not pan out, but it's something to keep an eye on. So you can see what we're looking at. Now, if you take a look at the snow map, and this doesn't give us our elevation, but it does give us some idea, excuse me. This is into Friday, Saturday. Now, the GFS is usually overdone on this, but it's starting to dump a bunch of snow. Again, I don't know the snow levels exactly. We're going into Sunday, but you can see there's not much down here. And here it comes. 70 inches. Now, again, we don't know where that is. That's probably at the top of Baker, but could that drop 30 inches? Where is the snow levels? That's what we're going to have to watch. Again, we are riding the edge for Mount Baker, potentially getting an epic storm versus is it going to be, the snow levels at 5,000 versus 4,000. It's riding that as well. If you're having problems with the connection buffering, sometimes that does happen, but sometimes you just have to refresh your feed, if I could say it that way. Otherwise, it happens every so often, and I apologize when that is doing it. I know I'm getting messaged about it. So anyway, hopefully it's still going here as well. Sorry about that if there's some buffering. Okay, so we looked at the main things that I wanted to show you on these maps. We got about 10 minutes left so I'm going to stop before we actually make an official forecast for coming up and what we're seeing kind of for the rest of the week into early next week. And we'll do that in just a minute. I'll let you look at the 12Z Euro snow map while I talk about while I answer your questions. But here's the 12Z snow map, and that's a good amount for the Euro starting to show up in the Mount Baker area as we head into next week. Look at this. The ski area, Mount Baker. Don't know about the ski area, but that's some big numbers here. Ignore the lowland snow. Just ignore that. This is so far out. What I'm looking at is just kind of generally what are the mountains? What's it looking like for mountains potentially on that run? So let's take a look at comments. I think we've caught up most on YouTube. Keith said he was looking at the models. Leslie mentioned fog on the way to Ferndale, but it was getting better a couple hours later. T Enthusiast was mentioning the buffering. Leslie's asking about planning a trip with Bel Air Tours next Tuesday to Leavenworth. Okay, Stevens Pass is much lower, 3,000 feet, than obviously Snoqualmie, and I'm assuming that would be the route you would go. It could, I think we're going to have to keep an eye on the mountains and what the snow levels, because Tuesday could have an epic storm in the mountains. Just looking at this model. So I don't know how they work that, and I don't know how that all works. I'm just kind of throwing that out here. Tuesday, again, don't know snow levels yet. And I may be able to pull that up after the 9:15 slot. So Yeah, Keith, you're probably right that this number, the big number, is the top of Mount Baker. Like the 55 inch here is probably the top. But that does give us some idea of what lower down, that could be 35 inches at, 5,000 feet. Again, I don't have the freezing snow levels in front of me, but I can try to dig those up after, we kind of end the first half portion. So let me take a look at Facebook really quick just to see if there are any questions or comments on there. So let's see. And I'm sorry, it takes me a while to get through all this stuff. Mia says hi. Birch Bay. Shelby says people are talking about a harsher winter this year. Any truth to that? No idea. We just don't know. Anybody that says they think they know is either, they're throwing a dart at a dartboard with blindfolded. And, harsh winter, not harsh winter. You got 1 in 2 chance. It's really hard to say. So, I do think we see a snow event or two in the lowlands. It's kind of a light La Nina, which is weighted towards wetter and cooler than normal. But individual years of the La Nina doesn't always follow that. It's just when they've averaged all the La Ninas together, that's what they've come up with. So it's so hard for us to predict that kind of thing. Shelby also noticed lots of fog out on Birch Bay Linden Road. Okay, thank you, Brenda and Marlo and Brenda again for the stars. Really appreciate that. Aaron asks, is it going to snow a lot? Then warm up early next week with rain falling. So Aaron, I'm not sure if you're talking about the mountains. First of all, it's not going to snow anything down here. It's too early to say how much it's going to snow in the mountains and where the snow levels are going to end up. But we're looking at that carefully as much as we can ahead of time. We probably won't know more of that until, Friday. We'll start being able to make some more definitive things about the snow levels. I just don't know yet on how that's all going to play out. What I'm seeing, though, is a fair amount of precip coming to the lowlands and to the mountains. We just don't know how much of that will be snow versus rain, but I think there is potential for at least some. I don't want to predict any flooding yet, but looking at the Snohomish, King area, and of course the river over in the Olympics. Is it the Skokomish? And correct me if I'm wrong on that. That always floods. If you barely, any water comes into it. But I don't know much about the Olympics ones. But the Snohomish River, the Tolt River, is it? Skycomish. I'm not very good with all the rivers down to our south, so Brandy does not want to ignore the lowland snow. It's too early to even talk about is that what it's going to have, change over to a cold pattern. There have been some hints, but that's all it is right now. So I wish I could have more on that, definitive on that. So, okay, we have about 6 minutes left. So a question came up today, and I'm getting messaged here a bunch. Okay, got message about king tides, or got asked about that. So the king tides, related to the full moon, and let me turn this over from the snow map to my weather graphic map, and that was not the one I wanted. Hold on 1 second here. I'll get this right. Okay, I got it here. This is and I'm not sure how well you can see it. I think you can. But the king tides are I guess starting tomorrow through the end of the week or Sunday. That coincides with the full moon. There is some possibility, and I'm gonna quick throw up a wind. We need to look at the wind. We need to keep an eye on that, especially that Ferndale, Birch Bay area, Cherry Point, whatever. We need to keep an eye on that. I'm not saying that it would be major flooding at this point. A lot of times major flooding off the king tides comes with a westerly wind or some kind of southerly or westerly wind. So let's take a look at the wind map. Hopefully you will be able to still see this on this one. So let me get this set up real quick because I totally forgot that we had to look at the wind coming up here. And so let me pull up the latest. I apologize for not having this ready. And let's just make sure. overnight. Wednesday, not seeing a whole lot for anything jumping out on the page. Maybe later Wednesday night, starting to pick up around the waterway, especially Bellingham and into Blaine. As we go into Thursday, maybe a little bit of southerlies that we'll have to keep an eye on Thursday. And then, and so king tides, yeah, there's just not, I mean, here's some northeast wind. Here's some northeast wind continuing as we go into Friday. Now, there is a westerly surge showing up on the UW here, coming into the islands. So, Friday. So, could that be an issue for, say, the islands, like Whidbey? Well, that's probably where we need to watch. This westerly surge coming there. And so let's just keep an eye on this on Friday, because again, the king tides are, a few days, and I don't have the tide map pulled up tonight, but let's keep an eye on that for Friday, as well. So, let's see here. Saturday's got more southerlies. Saturday could be fairly breezy, just looking at this. So, okay, I will come back to one other thing here. Let me just check these comments. Oh, hey, Anthony's along with the Puget Sound Stormwatch. And it's I haven't had time to jump on a lot of these other streams just because I've been going a little bit crazy with just so many things. But really appreciate these guys that know, that what they're doing here in the Northwest, and there's a bunch of good ones. And so Anthony is there doing that, and he's growing his page rather well and rapidly, and that's great. He's been able to, I think, dedicate more time. Tim, good to hear from you from Neptune Beach. Yes, glad you're on here. And Keith is asking, I think you're probably asking about the tides regarding the Fraser River outflow. Yeah, I don't think the Fraser River outflow, obviously, the Fraser River outflow, if that was running, is probably not going to promote tidal flooding or tide flooding, high tide flooding. It'd be more westerly as it's pushing we're up on our tides and it's pushing that water over barriers and things like that. So we're more looking at the westerly surge, and the northeast wind would be, yeah, it would help prevent it, I guess, in one sense. I've never thought of it that way. Oh, you were thinking for the snow. Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about the... yes, northeast wind is great to get cold air here, but that northeast wind there is not coming from any Arctic air. It's just the way that the low pressure and high pressure, where it's set up, is creating that northeast wind gradient. So it's really has not, in this case, not anything to do with an Arctic air coming or anything like that. We're not seeing that, at least this week, if that makes sense. So, okay, Aaron, great, back on Facebook. He lives in Sumas. And Brandy, I'm just laughing that you're not ignoring the lowland snow. Don't worry, none of us are ignoring it either, but if I start, if you show a snow map and it starts showing snow all over the lowlands, people are going to freak out. It's too far out. Models are going to fluctuate. They have a hard time picking up lowland snow here, and we have to dot 4 I's and cross 5 T's just to get snow to fall at sea level here in Whatcom County. Now, we do have the advantage of, as Keith just pointed out, the Fraser outflow. So, okay, 9:15 has come. Let me give you my final forecast so we can wrap up our half hour of time, right, just about on time. So I'm going to go over to, hold on one second here. I got to reset this up and make sure you can see this, because I think I'm getting this down. Okay, you should have a forecast up here, and I think this is going to match what we just talked about. But let me summarize. Tonight, low of 35 in Linden. So again, depending on how much cloud cover, and it mentioned patchy fog, we've just talked about that. We looked at the cams and talked about that. We've got some reports. So, there could be a few areas close to freezing. And again, if that's the case, if you wake up tomorrow and it's, 35, 34, and it's been foggy and it's the street, is wet, maybe step out there and just see if it's got any little ice. I'm not expecting any, but you never know. So just kind of keep that in eye, because it has been wet roads, although it hasn't rained the last, little while. But especially roads that would be, sheltered, like the Birch Bay Linden Road between Enterprise and the freeway. It's a famous place for black ice. Wednesday, not a huge chance, but we can't ignore it. A little bit of rain, but Wednesday night, more of a chance. Not going to be a huge amount, and we've talked about that. Thursday has a bigger chance with more rain. So into Thursday night, and then Friday is a 100% chance. I think we've nailed all this. Saturday, I said wasn't going to be a half bad day. Could see some wind on Saturday. But the name of the game is a couple of easy systems, lighter systems turning into potentially bigger systems. And then as we go into next week, rain, 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 rain. Okay? And I want to pull up the forecast discussion. I don't know. Hold on, let me refresh this. Yep, they have updated it. Just updated it. So we are now kind of going past our half-hour time. So for those who have joined us tonight and you want to say goodnight, I'm going to continue on just doing a few extra things. So it's the bonus time that you can spend with Randy Small and Whatcom County Weather YouTube and Facebook Live. But thank you so much for joining on the live. Make sure you like, subscribe, and we've gotten a huge amount of subscribers in the last 24 hours. Please tell your friends to subscribe. Please watch or let it run as much as you can. We badly need the watch hours because that's our next big goal. Once we get to a certain amount of watch hours, we are good to go and we're going to be able to broaden this thing. So really appreciate that. And so watch, like, and subscribe, or subscribe, like, and watch on YouTube, and like and share as well. Don't forget to share it on Facebook. So really appreciate that. So now we're in bonus time. I think Sherry's asking if there's snow expected anytime soon in Whatcom County. Well, the answer to that is yes. We're going to have lots of snow, but it ain't going to be in the lowlands. And that's probably what you're asking. But yes, snow will be up in mountains, but nothing in the lowlands anytime soon. And I think that's probably what you were asking. Elise says, she said there were still patches on Badger today of wet spots. Yeah, the shelter one. So that's something to keep in mind. Again, if it were to get to 32, and that would probably be promoted by a clearing spell. I mean, we can pull up a cloud map and try to guess it. But it's possible, there could be little periods of, clearing off, especially because we get closer to sunrise. I'm not suspecting it to be area-wide. If it's area-wide, then we may have an ice problem. But I'm not seeing that. I'm still seeing some clouds probably tomorrow for the most part. But we'll just have to, hopefully people can use, when you get out there and you're like, it's real cold out and it has rained lately. And I see a little bit of blue sky over me. I better think about potential of, could there be any black ice? That kind of thing. Just even if there isn't any, get ourselves thinking about it, because we could head into some cooler temperatures coming up as well after this rain over the next week. So let's look at the area forecast discussion. We call it an AFD. It's been put out at 8:54 tonight, and hopefully you can see that. So let's go through this. We got a weak warm front coming Wednesday, another system on Thursday. Those are going to be the benign or weaker systems, so to speak. And then a series of stronger and wetter systems will take aim beginning Friday and into the middle of next week. Okay? I'm not going to go over... Okay, here, I'm not going to go over the first couple systems. The forecast is wetter heading into Thursday as the next wave of moisture overrides the ridge. We talked about that, and moves into the region. This moisture tap is aimed particularly over the central Cascades for mountain rain and high elevation snow, potentially sending a few rivers. Hey, I think we talked about this. In King and Snohomish counties into action stage. Okay, that's through Thursday night. But let's look at Friday through next Tuesday. The pattern remains active. Wave after wave of moisture streams into Western Washington, or through Western Washington. The main concern will be focused toward river levels with potential threats of flooding as we head into early next week. Without much of a break, the landslide threat will be elevated due to saturated soils. The air mass will be mild with temps in the 40s and 50s and high snow levels. Stevens Pass may see periods of light snow with all rain at Snoqualmie. Okay, so at this moment, they're thinking that Stevens would be higher, may see some snow, but it looks like they're thinking that the snow levels will be, I reversed that. I said Stevens was at 3,000. Snoqualmie's at 3,000, but they would be above that other than maybe periods of light snow. And then they talk about the high tides with some minor coastal flooding, both coast and interior. That would, so we'll have to keep an eye on that, but they're just thinking minor. So, and then down in the hydrology section, let me just read this. Greatest precipitation in the north central Washington Cascades. They're going to say snow levels rising over 6,000 feet. 2 inches of rain between 18 hours. Is that right? Between Snoqualmie and Glacier Peak. Well, yeah. If you know where that is, You know where we're talking. This will put pressure on rivers flowing out of this. Okay, here are the rivers: Snoqualmie, Skykomish, Snohomish, and Tolt. Okay, did we get them all? Did we say that all? Oh, I forgot the Snoqualmie. But I think we got most of the rest of them. Okay, so yeah, looks like, they're not mentioning Whatcom County. They're not mentioning Skagit. Okay, now again, this we're gonna have to see where that snow level is. But at this point, I think the main issue could be to our south at this point. But I don't even know how big that could be. It's too early to say. They're not calling for any major flooding. Okay? They're just alerting, here's what we're seeing. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Let's not raise our fear levels or anything about this. And of course, we got our own issues because of the Nooksack and 4 years ago, and people are still trying to recover from that. And so let's just, again, there's not much snow up in the, ski area. There's not, obviously above higher there is, but it's not like we had in November of 21, and we're not near as wet coming into that. So, if you want to stay, I'm going to just pull up some other maps, and then I'm going to call it at 9:30. So again, we're in bonus time. Let's pull up some map showing our accumulation. So just kind of for the year to date, and this is not going to have changed much. In fact, it's going to be worse, but it will change for the better after next week. Hopefully, just not too crazy for the better. We are 2.17 inches below normal for the year, I believe. No, misread that. I got to do some quick math. Excuse me. 228.36, 2.31 inches below normal. So 2 1/3 inches below normal. This is, we're missing a couple days in here, but this is on the wetter or drier side for the year. For the years of all the years here, and there are probably some missing years because some of them had a lot of days missing. I don't even know where 2021 had 38.92 inches at this point, I believe. We have 28.36 at this point this year. So that's 10 inches less. Okay? 10 inches less compared to what 2021 had up to this point. And obviously that would have included the November flood. But 2021 was the fourth wettest through December 2nd ever. And we are one of, let's see, I can count these up. And some of these have missing days, big time missing days. The gauge went down, or they quit doing it in the 96, 97, 98 at airport. But, this is a 20th dry. I'm just guessing here. Maybe 25th dry as compared to the fourth wettest. So you can see a big difference. The water table shouldn't be so, and again, we're coming out of fairly dry summer overall and fall until October, and then late October into November. November is well above average, the 19th wettest November out of 76 years, I believe. So that was a good map. Let me pull up, and again, hopefully you're able to see all this. I'm going to pull up something as you're continuing to look at that map. I'm going to grab a link here, and then and I'll probably check for questions about 9:29, and then we'll try to end soon after that. But I want to pull up a stat here if I can just find it. If you can give me a second. Okay, let's see if this... Okay, hopefully you can see this kind of multicolored screen here. And this is a climate anomaly maps and tables. Let's take a look at precipitation percent of average for the current since January 1st. Let's see. I think I pulled this up correctly. Can you see the state of Washington with a bunch of colors on it? Reds and yellows and little bits of greens and blues. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. And hopefully it's centered in the page. So that, okay, we're good. I'm sorry it's not bigger, but this is the percent of normal from beginning of the year through December 1st. We have brown in the western lowlands, so we're about between 80 and 90% of normal. Yellow is 90 to 100. Okay, so actually, Whatcom County's not doing horrible, even though we're a couple inches behind in Bellingham Airport. The mountains is close to 100%, potentially 9,500. Okay, but you see areas down here in the red, that's 50 to 70. and then you see the ones blues and greens over there down by the Tri-Cities area is 110 to 130% above normal. Or 110 to 130% of normal, excuse me, not above normal, of normal. So overall, we're not doing too bad for the year, okay? But now if we pull up for the since July 1st, let me see if I can get this here, not mess this up here. Nope, that was the wrong one. Sorry about that. Okay, here's since July 1st. Again, Whatcom County's not doing too bad, but some of these areas are. And then I was going to show you one other thing here. I'm getting dinged here. I was going to try to show it to you from October 1st. Hang on one second here. Again, I hope these are all showing up for you. Okay, I think it's... Oops, I think it's this map. Yes. So here it is since the fall, meteorological fall. Does that start in October or does that start in September? But anyway, since October 1st, I think that starts in September. Notice here, we got green out by the water and green in eastern Whatcom County. We have basically, I mean, it's not perfectly normal in the yellow, but it's 90 to 100% of normal. I would say this is pretty good for our fall. But we're not like uber, look at over here, 200% of normal. So we're not that uber wet like we were in 21. So I think we're sitting in a good place, and we're gonna make these atmospheric rivers or whatever you want to call them, fire hoses, could be beneficial overall for us to get our water up for the year. So, okay, I'm gonna pull up one more map. I always have one more map, you know. I'm just gonna pull up a quick look at the freezing level map here, and I know it's probably gonna look a little bit, if I can get this pulled up here, hang on. Where lost it. Hang on, I don't know where that map went. Okay. Gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. Let me see. I'm trying to pull up a freezing level map, and I am not successful here tonight on that. Let me try it one more time. I wonder if this link has gone dead. I'm not sure. Let's try one more time here. Okay. Is something coming up finally? Okay, I think we're coming up. Let me pull up the Nooksack. Actually, let me activate to both. Let me just look at something about this is the freezing level. So it's not the snow level, but this will give us an idea about Mount Baker. Let me make sure you guys are all able to see that. You should be able to see a bar chart and a funny looking chart that means absolutely nothing to you guys probably, but we got the freezing level and we've got it in feet on the left here. And then we've got the dates down here, and then this is the amount of rain, and then snow at the top here is the blue. Well, actually, it's uncertainty if that's going to be snow or rain. But you see the lines here, and I'm looking mainly at the mean, which is the green line, and you can see the freezing level does go up to 7,000 feet. Now, the snow level could be well below that. So there's this period on December 5th. So Friday, and then it comes back down again. So it's possible, especially as we go into next week, this is going to be close. I'm just telling you this right now. There is a chance that Mount Baker gets an epic snow dump next week. I mean, this is riding a fine line. And in fact, if we pull up Mount Baker's temperatures for the next week forecast, again, let me double check to make sure you see this. And I now passed my time almost here. Chance of snow for Wednesday, snow likely, snow then rain, snow Thursday, rain, snow. Okay, Friday is warmer, just what we saw. Then snow with a high of 35, snow. But this is riding a fine line here. And then as we go into next week, snow on Sunday could be heavy at times with a high near 36, but that could drag the snow levels down if it's heavy. Snow with possibly mixed with rain on Monday, rain and snow on Monday night. Okay. It is going to be touch and go. But I'm not seeing any snow levels. And I know this is a freezing level map. I'm not seeing any crazy Friday. Now, at the end of the run, it's jumping up again. But that's next Tuesday. So what? You stack one after another. But the fact that the snow freezing levels, and I know those are two different things, are on the lower side here at the Mount Baker watershed or the Nooksack watershed, that's probably a good sign for us for keeping away any major flooding issues, at least at this point. So, okay. Woo, that was a lot. We've given you 15 extra minutes of bonus time. Elise says deep rest. So much panic so soon because 4 years ago. Yes, and I agree with that. I'm not seeing any at this point major flooding issues for the Nooksack. I'm just going to come out and say it at this point. Now, we have to watch it for next week, if depending on what happens. But I'm not seeing any indication. Nobody is saying that anyway. But just again, I know people could be on edge with that. So appreciate the good comment there. Lots of good comments on this YouTube channel tonight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch. Really appreciate everybody tonight. And the last 24 hours, we have bumped over 500 followers on YouTube. Yay. And we're heading towards 1,000 now. So George asks, any chance we'll see some live videos of you driving through the snow to Boomers anytime soon? Oh, my goodness. I hope so. You never know. But, yep, we've done that for many times. And we've given a lot of shout out to Boomers over the years. But hopefully soon. So, but nothing in the forecast yet. So, okay, everyone, time is done for tonight. I don't know when our next live will be, but I'll probably schedule it like I did today, earlier in a day, and then say, yep, this will be the time that we'll plan on it. I don't know that tomorrow night will be one, but Thursday night is a possibility, although I got to check my schedule. Yeah, and we'll just keep updating, and I'm going to try to do a quick summary of this live for those who can't watch it. Okay, everybody, really appreciate you all and the support on this page. We are blessed by this community, and thank you so much. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.